Yeah, so as soon as we put this episode out, I'm gonna throw some stuff on TikTok, man.
All right, we're here. We're live. We're live.
All right, word. Let's see, let me check something. Okay, I'm on mute here. Okay, cool.
Sounds weird without our countdown music. God.
Yeah, I know. But as long as you can hear it on your end, right?
No, I can't hear it either. So I think I moved it from the folder it was in. Nope.
Okay. Might be just
Oh no! No! Hold on.
What, the echo came back?
No, it's playing it in my computer speakers. Oh man, this is just weird, man. What the heck is going on? Oh my lord, this other song, like it's just. Oh my lord. Whatever, dude. Okay, whatever. 30 seconds and we'll go live.
We can roll with it, bro.
Oh man, I just all these drivers and everything just completely just screwed up my computer, and it's making me angry. We'll figure it out.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah.
Let's just screw it. Let's do it live. Let's go.
Live and direct, baby.
Let's go.
It's time for another episode of Cap Casualties Podcast. Now here are two guys that were traded away from Houston long before it became fashionable. It's Patrick Lopez.
Here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence.
And Rod English.
I've got the style and profile like never before. Woo!
It's the Nature Boy, Sir Roderick English. Greetings and salutations, everybody. It's another episode of the Cap Casualties Podcast. 3 weeks later, of course. Hey, guys, look, we're not weekly. We're not going to do weekly. You got to get over that. I know a few of you are like, a few folks reached out to me, Rod, and said, hey, you guys, I remember listening in the first round. You guys were weekly. Like, why don't you do that? Because we're adults now. We got obligations, and we try to do what we can, and sometimes life just happens, and we have to just kind of adapt our schedules. Things happen, but at least we're here now, right, Rod? Right?
Hey, live and in the flesh, man.
Live and in the flesh through Zoom. Actually, correct myself. Through Discord. So another episode. I'm Patrick Lopez. With me, as always, my friend of nearly 3 decades, to the notorious ROD, Rod English. Rod, glad to have you back, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man. And so, just real quick, for those of you may hear some or at least on the live broadcast, you may hear some background noise. It seems like the real boss of my house just came home a few moments ago, and as you may know, I record in my garage. My AC unit is in the garage, and I told my wife, I said, hey, look, I'm about to record. So I'm about to turn the air off for a minute. She's like, no, you ain't, because it's summer here in Florida. So, no, that ain't happening.
Yeah,
like,
we talking about like 99.99% humidity right now in this.
Yeah. I mean,
Florida.
That ain't nothing, man. I mean, we could deal with that.
Yeah.
No, man, I got overruled. So I was like, yeah, well, hey, happy wife, happy life. So it is what it is, man. So you got that going on. I'm not wearing my glasses. I'm wearing contacts. So, well, I've been wearing contacts for years, but I've, re-up my prescription, so getting old, so yeah.
I'm not lucky like you. I have I don't know, they're like weird shaped eyeballs, so I can't get contacts. Yeah. And then I went to talk about LASIK surgery, and they told me, okay, yeah, because of how weirdly shaped your eyeballs are, if you get a LASIK, then you could wear normal contacts, because if not, I have to wear these giant hubcaps called toric lenses. And they're just massive, dude. Like, they just cover your whole eyeball, man. It's just not pleasant. But but the other thing was, I was thinking about, what, might as well, because I'm an active guy too. Like, might as well do this so I can wear some soft contacts. Then I come to find out that the one thing that they don't tell you about with LASIK surgery is that when you get it, it helps, yes. And there are some people that have issues with it. But if you rub your eyes a lot, you're gonna have problems. Do you know why, Rod? Because they basically, the whole point of LASIK is they slice your eyeball open. Okay, well,
yeah,
it's not like other parts of your body that seal up with scar tissue. Your eye that slice is going to stay there your entire life. So if you rub your eyes a lot, like I do during cedar season here in Texas, which is in the wintertime, I rub my eyes a lot. And what happens with that is that I could potentially detach my retina because of the incision or the laser cut from the LASIK surgery. So basically, I'm gonna be walking around the rest of my life, like the next 40 some odd years, with 2 sliced open eyeballs. Nope, not gonna do it. Not gonna do it, man. Not gonna do it.
Yeah, man, screw all that, man.
That's not
I
me,
hear
man.
you, dude. And I spent the last 2 weekends, back home in Houston, man.
Oh, yeah.
And full disclosure, I don't, ever since moving from Arizona here to Florida, I don't deal with allergies at all. Been living here 7 years, haven't dealt with any allergies whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
I spent 2 weekends in Houston, and man, my eyes were itching like crazy.
You're like, give me out of here. I'm out. Give me back to Florida.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, this is the reason why I don't live in H-Town no more. I love my city. Don't get me wrong. I'm always gonna rep H-Town, man. But this is the reason why I don't live in H-Town no more. It's because of that reason right there.
Well, I'm being real, because I live in a little area just north of downtown Austin called Cedar Park. It's not little anymore. And if you know anything about Austin, Texas, guys, the housing market is just ridiculous. It's like it's always been the most expensive part of Texas, but it's become worse, and we have a lot of out-of-staters moving in here, and this market is skyrocketing. Like literally, my house doubled in value in a year and a half. Like I found out the other day that my neighbor put her house on the market last week. She got 30 freaking offers in like 2 days, and she listed the house like 40 grand over the value, okay, which is normal. But then of course everyone that are buying in this city are paying up to 100,000, if not more, above asking price. So what does that mean? Every time a house hits the market, which are very few because there's not a lot of inventory in this area, it's just catapulting up, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll tell my wife, look, I said, man, this lady put her house on the market last week. I was like, look, I'm gonna be real with you. She put it for a lot of money. Okay, how much is it? Well, if we listed our house for the value that she listed it, we're gonna make about 150 grand more. Okay, I'm like, here's the thing though, based off of the percentages of what's being sold over asking price, I was like, if she gets that, we could probably list it and make double what we paid for a year and a half ago. Found out today, gone. She sold the house for a lot of money, a lot more than she asked for it. So yeah, I basically made double my profit on this house within a year and a half, man. That's how crazy this is. I bought my house for a specific amount, which is probably higher than the state average in Texas. But the big thing about this area, Rod, is this is cedar season. Like I literally live in Cedar Park, and I'm allergic to cedar. Yeah. So from December to February, I'm in fucking misery. Like it's horrible for me. Like it's just bad, man. And like to think about, like, okay, if I got that surgery, I'd be, because I'm not gonna lie, I rub my eyes a lot. It's just my natural tick is to just rub my eyes. That's just like a weird quirk I've always had. But like during allergy season, because they itch, I rub them really. There are times where, I mean, usually at least every other day they're a little red because I rub them because of the pollen that happens in the wintertime, man. But I'm like, man, you, dude. I'm ready to retire, man.
Token up, huh?
Yeah, right. Everybody's like, damn, man, this guy that runs our company, he comes in fucking high all the time, man. I'm like, no, it's a season. But like, it's because they're puffy and swollen. I look like Matthew McConaughey in that mugshot, when they arrested him for playing the bongos naked. He's all like smiling, but his eyes are. He looks like Ren from Ren and Stimpy,
Right.
And it's like that's what I look like.
When his eyes are bloodshot.
Man, his bloodshot is bloodshot. That's how bad they were, man. Yeah, but like I said, he looks like Ren from Ren and Stimpy, man. The little chihuahua with the big bloodshot eyes. That's what I look like, man, during cedar season. That's what I look like. But I'm gonna be real with you though. Like I'm working my butt off, with my adulting jobs to try to retire early, and the goal is to buy a beach house probably in Florida. Join Rod out there in the Sunshine State, man. And the main reason why is I want to get away from this pollen, man. Like I got to get away from it. Like thankfully the last 2 years it hasn't been a very rainy summer. So what that normally means is if it's a dry summer, it's going to be a lower pollen winter time. But I'm gonna be real, Rod. Like, I don't know if you know this, but it's rained in Texas for like 2 months straight now, and like every day I open my window and I'm like, I see more rain. I'm like, damn it, the wintertime's gonna suck with that pollen. Like the trees are just like, that Birdman gif where he's all like, those are the cedar trees. Like, I'm coming for you,
ready, baby.
I'm coming for you in December. Like, oh no, don't leave me alone, God, go away. They're like, say, man, you want to come out? Like, you want to come out? I got a little pollen for you. A little taste. You want
to come out and bleed?
No, I don't want this. I don't want this anymore. So, yeah, the goal is when I retire to hit the beach because there's less pollen over there. Maybe a little more mold because of the damper climate, but I'm not as allergic to the mold. I know a lot of folks right now their allergies are bad in Texas because of the mold. I don't have that problem. It's the cedar pollen. That juniper ash is what it really is, but they call it cedar pollen. That stuff is killer for me, man. Like it is, like we said, man. I look straight up wrecked for 2 months every wintertime. It's brutal, man. Like it's brutal. But
yeah.
Enough about our personal lives, guys. Let's talk some sports. What have you been up to, man, from a sports perspective? Like, what you been watching lately?
Well,
what are your thoughts on how things have been? It's been a very relatively quiet sports world for the last couple weeks, but I wanted to get your thoughts on things, man.
It has been, man. I know that we're starting to really get off into NBA playoffs. Baseball's been kind of quiet, but NBA has been doing, been holding serve pretty good. And then I saw something else today that that we can kind of wrap on a little bit later on.
Sure.
Is there is some serious traction. I mean, some serious traction on college football playoff expanding to 12 teams. And so,
okay.
Yeah. And I mean, that is really starting to get some heat. And so, I'm a college football honk. I mean, even though I'm wearing NFL gear right now, and I'll explain a little bit later why I'm wearing what I'm wearing, even though I said I'm done with the Texans, trust me, I'm wearing this for a dang good reason. So I'll get into that later. But anyways, so yeah, college football playoff, man. They're looking to expand to 12 teams, man. So that really caught my eye earlier today. And then going back to the NBA, the NBA awards, the finalists, not the finalists, the winners were announced today, and so definitely want to wrap on that for a little bit too.
Cool.
So.
Okay. Well, I mean, you bring up college football playoffs, and I think you and I have always mentioned that we know at some point they were going to expand from the 4. We knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Just because. There's always, and it's just like March Madness. You have 64 teams, then you say, okay, well, let's bump it up to 68 and have the first 4. We call it just a play-in round. It's not a play-in round; it's the first round. No, it's not the first round. You created a mini play-in tournament to make people feel better about the teams, feel better. But joking aside, the problem was always with the 64. There's a 65th team that's pissed off that they should have been in there, right? We always heard that. And then we bump it up to 60, we bump it up, and then we hear, okay, well, there's 70 teams that legitimately could have, argued, that they should be in the tournament. We're never going to make every team happy, okay? I think the same thing's going to be said here with the college playoffs. Whenever we had the football playoffs, whenever we had 4, it's like, yeah, but that leaves, it should be top 10 at least. It should be top 10. It should be top 10. Okay, well, we're talking about 12 now. Is it inflated? Are we going to give round buys? How are we going to establish that? But the other thing I want to point out is from my perspective, Rod, I had always said when they first announced the playoff years ago, I had told you, and I think we were doing the show at the time. I told you they have to go super conferences before they expand to a larger playoff seed, a larger seeded playoff. They had to go super conferences, but that's actually been the word on that's been mum for a while. We haven't heard that for years about the ideas of building the 4 power conference. We haven't heard any of that for a while, which is interesting to me. I know COVID killed a lot of stuff last year, but even before that, for 2 or 3 years, we hadn't really heard a whole lot. So it's interesting to me. We talk about expanding to 12, which would be kind of I wouldn't have a problem with it because you have some teams that arguably should be in there, and I always feel that the underdogs should have a shot at it. A UCF or a school that had a really good or an undefeated season that they're not top 4 because of just politics and conference championships and prestige, legacy, whatever you want to put it, however you want to put it, preventing them from being in there. I think that 12 gives an opportunity for an underdog, like an upstart, to come in there and just shake shit up is really what it. And I like that kind of stuff. You know how I felt like during March Madness, all these upsets. I'm like, give me more, man. Give me more.
Dude, right.
Every time I see something like that happen, I'm texting Rod. I'm like, yes, give me more of that. Like that's what I want. Like I want disruption in the system. I don't want to I root for these good programs. I wish the best for Mike, and we got to bring it up. Mike Krzyzewski is going to retire here very soon.
Yeah, we definitely have to bring that up.
But I'm not a huge Duke fan. You are. You're a Dookie. But for me, it's like, hey, it's a good program. I like to see them there, but I also like to see an upstart Butler, come in and whoop their ass in the early rounds. And I love stuff like that because it just makes things interesting in college sports. So I like the idea of 12. I haven't really done all my research on it, quite honestly, so I don't know how they want to format it. I'm assuming they're going to have a couple of buys or something. It helps. It helps. I think make it interesting. And I think the Bulls. I think we've seen it this year. The Bulls have they've outlived themselves. It's time to move on from the Bulls and start talking about let's doing a legitimate, actual large playoff system.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, there's too much money tied into the Bulls, and so I don't think the Bulls are going to go anywhere.
Well, we always said you could just title these playoff each round like the Chick-fil-A bowl. You could just take these bowls and put them over.
Yeah. As far as naming rights, I mean, you could still work your way around that, but I think that you still have your bowl season, but just the conference affiliations or whatever with these bowls, you break that up, and, you can still have the Chick-fil-A bowl and, however you want to do it. And I know the conferences can work that out. The way I see it, and especially when you're, talking about what you're proposing, and which I like it, before we go to a 12-team expansion, we need super conferences, at least 6. We need at least 6 super conferences.
Okay.
Okay. That way you get the winner of those conferences automatic qualifiers, right? And then 6 at large. And you can base it off of AP ranking or whatever. The next 6 highest ranking that are not conference champions, throw them in, right? And so something of that nature. I think that would really work. And so so that way you're still not killing the significance of the regular season, because you still have something to play for. You may not win your conference, but if you win enough games and your ranking is high enough, you can still get in, And so you take, you still keep Pac-10, Pac-10, God. Pac-12, still keep the Big 12, still keep the Big 10, still keep, the SEC, you still keep the ACC, and then you go ahead and make the American Athletic, what they've been calling themselves over the last couple of years as the Power 6. You go ahead and make them super conference. And you can, muddle around with the geographic affiliations or whatever. And go, I mean, you still can take somebody like a Coastal Carolina, out of Sun Belt that raised a whole lot of havoc, and they have a shot to get in. I would love to see something like that, right? And so, so the fact that we're talking about it, because if you remember, when we first started this podcast some years ago, man, one of my favorite topics to talk about was conference expansion. I drooled over that conversation every single year because it seemed like for at least about 5 or 6 years, we were constantly talking about expansion. And then slowly, like the Pac-10, they went from the Pac-10 to the Pac-12, even though the Big Ten still calls themselves the Big Ten, but they started adding teams. The ACC slowly started adding teams. The SEC started inheriting teams and whatnot. And you saw these major conferences get bigger and bigger. Now the Big 12, due to the simple fact that the Big 12 had idiot commissioner, the Big 12 shrunk, and and they have yet to try to expand, in which they can get some more some more national respect. you know Now, mind you, Oklahoma has beat the odds the last couple of years, but still, you know that's a whole nother discussion. But I think the fact of what will make this a lot more palatable is, yes, going to six super conferences, and then the winner of those conferences, you know, uh, you know, when they win the conference championship game, they have to do that. Forget this regular season stuff. You got to win your championship game. Then by then, you are the champion of your conference, the super conference, and you get an automatic bid into the playoff, right?
Okay.
So,
And
so
then how do you take care of the remaining 6 seeds then?
like I said, as far as the remaining six seeds, whether you want to use the coaches poll or you want to use the AP poll, you could base it off of that. The six highest, ranked teams that are not conference champions.
Okay.
Those would be your six at large.
Okay, so we wouldn't be saying every conference champion gets in and then one team from each conference gets in as well.
No.
We're not saying that.
No.
We're saying
No.
so like if a conference winner had 2 losses and are out of the top 15 because of those 2 losses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they somehow win because let's just say it's yeah, let's say that. Let's say the conference champion wins by beating the team that had the best record in the conference, right? They had the second best, they're in, they beat them. But that team, they had 2 losses when they faced the leader. They automatically get that bid into the playoff. But then so should the team that just lost get that bid into the playoff, because let's just say they were a top 10 team when they lost. They were undefeated, and that game was only 1 loss. Overall, their strength of schedule was really powerful. So we're basically saying we're giving them kind of like, and I hate to say this, guys, but Ohio, but they come to mind. We basically have given them what we've given to Ohio State and Alabama over the last 4 or 5 years, where these teams, like, they lose towards the back end, and we let them somehow they make their way back in, and another team gets pushed out. So you're gonna push out someone else to do that, though, Rod. I'm not saying that's gonna happen with all six super conferences, but I can see that happening in the SEC. I can see that happening maybe in the Big 12 if, like, West Virginia is having a great year, Texas has bounced back finally, or in the Pac-12 where it's USC and Washington duking it out. Let's just say status quo in terms of, like, the current schools that are powerhouses in each conference, right?
Yeah.
Or let's say it's Alabama and Auburn that are facing each other in the championship game again, right? And Auburn has 2 losses, and Alabama's undefeated. And just like I always enjoy to see is, Auburn beats the crap out of Alabama. They get in with 2 losses because they won the conference, right? So they get that automatic bid. Alabama has 1 loss. You don't mean to tell me Nick Saban isn't going to be crying a fit to be in, even though he just lost? So a team that wrapped up their season strong in the SEC that may have 1 loss says, okay, well, we technically are tied with Alabama, so we don't get that bid. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate for you here, man. That's really because what I want to do is we have to really think about this, because even with the college playoff the last couple of years, there have been a few seasons where we've had to have very questionable who our top 4 teams are. Like, there's been a lot of question in there. So that's why I'm throwing it out there. I think was it TCU the year, like 4 or 5 years ago, where they basically got vaulted over by one of the 2 SEC teams.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It was TCU because I think either Bama or LSU jumped them.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
No. But this was before the playoff, I think.
Okay, was that before
Or
the playoff?
was it? This might have been still BCS era.
Okay. For some reason, something comes to mind where TCU got screwed out, got vaulted
Yeah,
got
yeah,
vaulted at
yeah,
the end by
yeah.
a team.
I want to say this was BCS era, but then again, this was 2014 when the first playoff was started. So,
Yeah.
so
See,
no,
so
no, so no. TCU during the college playoff era,
yeah.
they did
They got
get
shafted one year. They got shafted one year. I think they only had one.
yeah,
They only had
and
one loss or something, and Alabama got in with 2 losses or something
yeah,
ridiculous like
yeah,
that.
yeah. And I think Alabama won the championship that year.
Yeah, if I remember correct, I'll have to go back and look. But
Yeah.
and look, guys, I get it. Like that would be the beauty of a 12-team playoff is a 2-loss big school like a Notre Dame could get hot and push their way through. Okay, that's fine. Or we have an upstart school like a U of H that has a really good. I'm not going to say they are, but let's just say they have a really good season, and it's like okay, or UCF or USF or one of those schools has a really good season in their smaller conference. They get that at large bid, into the playoff.
Right.
I want to see that because I don't want to see like UCF posting a banner saying that they are the de facto national champion because they finished their season undefeated. Like it's not fair to me. That doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right.
No.
And you're in that area, so I'm sure you experienced the hate that was coming out of there.
Dude, I work with folks that were UCF alum, and they swear up and down, "Oh, we're the champs, we're the champs, we're the champs." And I always have to remind them, "Where's your trophy? Show me the national championship trophy in your trophy case. Show that to me."
I know.
Oh, you can't. Okay, all right, dude. I was literally in that stadium a couple of weeks ago, witnessing my son graduate from high school. The same stadium where they served alcohol at a high school
They
graduation.
serve booze at a high school graduation, guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 10 o'clock in the morning.
That's
right?
how Florida rolls at 10 a.m.
Yeah, 10 a.m. Now, I enjoyed the ceremony for obvious reasons, but the one thing, full transparency, that was kind of wearing on my nerves is every time that I looked up at the press boxes, I saw that national championship sign that's tatted on the freaking press box, and I'm like, man, you've got to be kidding me, So, and it's there, man, and they're not taking it down. But yeah, even for like a scenario that you just threw out, playing devil's advocate, then if you want to get even more technical, you can bring somewhat of a BCS formula back into it, to where that makes the regular season that much more significant, when you factor in strength of schedule, style points and all that stuff, right? And so you can bring back that type of formula. I don't think that it could be as loose or crazy as it was during the BCS era, but you can bring back somewhat of a formula like that. But it goes back to what you said. I think, those scenarios will be, few and far between, because I think that with just the way that college football and how things are laid out, I really do think that things will play themselves out, over the course of time. But yeah, I mean, I'm sick and tired of seeing Alabama in the playoff every year, in which another story, Nick Saban just inked an extension to where he's going to be the head football coach until 2029. And so, as long as he's
old is he
coaching on
gonna
that
be in
sideline, they're going to be in the
2029?
college football playoff.
Holy cow! How old is he going to be in 2029? What's that? 7 years from now? 8 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to turn 70.
He's gonna be pushing.
This year on Halloween,
he's gonna be
dude.
pushing. He's gonna be strut. He's gonna be wobbling around like Joe Paterno did. Joe Paterno did at the back end of things. I mean, he's 69 years old right now.
Yep. Yep.
And
And
he's
he will be 70 on Halloween. And he's like,
Man.
yeah. I mean, he's basically saying, there is an opportunity where I may die on this field, and for him, that would be the perfect place for him to die, is on the football field.
Right. I mean, the man's making just under $10 million a year. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? Like, I mean,
the money's good, man.
like Nick, you can't take it with you, man. Go enjoy some life, Like, I know, like, I don't know, man. It's just, I mean, this is probably a whole nother topic because you and I have had these discussions. My thought is always, it's always sad to see because I worked in the industry. These lifers that they leave, and the moment they leave, within like a year, couple years, they pass away because their health just because that's really what's keeping them going was the job. Like I know multiple legendary broadcasters I've had the pleasure of working with, in my career when I was previously in broadcast media, and some of them were nice guys and some of them were just straight horrible human beings. But I will tell you the thing though is that the job is what kept them going, man. Like I knew 3 different lifers that had been broadcasting for like 50 some odd years retire, and within like 4 years they had passed away. Like it's crazy to me. It just blows my mind. But you're right. Like this guy could be dying on the field. Like I'm like, I guess his wife likes it. She's like, sure, whatever, dude.
The money's good.
The money's good. Like she obviously has access to the checking account, so she don't give a damn how long he's working. But I like the idea of expansion. I do think we need to get power conferences because I think it'll make it marquee all the way through from beginning to end, like a whole event, like the chase to get the 12, the chase for the 12. And if you have your current 4, the big 4, you have your SEC, your Big 10, your Big 12, and your Pac-12. So then what will we do? Create maybe two at-large type of power conferences, I guess. I don't know. Like,
yeah, I mean, you got the ACC. Let's not forget about
I'm
the
sorry.
ACC
I'm sorry.
too,
I
so.
totally sorry ACC folks. I know Clemson's out there. They've won titles. My bad. I just had a brain fart. Forgot the SEC. So basically just one at large conference is how you want to do it.
Yeah, and that's I mean by default, I mean that's an easy one. The AAC, man, the American Athletic.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, because they've always had, from as far as the last 5 years are concerned, I mean, they've always had some folks that could possibly bust up and get into the playoff. I mean, they've made some threats over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And so which the closest one was UCF a couple of years ago. The prior to that was U of H, when Tom Herman was coaching that team, and so so they've had a couple of teams that raised some havoc over the last couple of years, and so they're very close. And so I think just by default, you make the AAC that 6th super conference, and there you go. And I think that really it evens the playing field, man, because lately it's been Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson, and then it's been everybody else.
Yeah.
And just like everybody starts to hate the Yankees, it's starting to get that way with those 3 schools.
Yeah.
To where sick and tired of seeing Alabama, sick and tired of seeing Ohio State, and even though I don't think that Ohio State is worth it, to be honest with you, and then I'm sick and tired of seeing Clemson. I mean, Clemson was great, 3 or 4 years ago when they first showed up in.
They were that darling. They were that darling that had come in, but now everybody's like, yeah, this chick's got to go. Like,
right.
Like she wearing out a welcome.
Right,
she done moved her stuff into my bathroom.
So.
She done moved her stuff into the bathroom. Like she she took a drawer in my dresser. Like she gotta go.
Yep.
Like that's really it, man. That's really it.
Yep.
I mean,
the honeymoon's over. Clemson's here to stay, man. Whether we like it or not, Clemson's here to stay. As long as Dabo Swinney is running that program, Clemson's here to stay, dude. So,
but you're right because we have 3 regulars that are floating in, of the 4 seats right now, and I'm sure all these other conferences are like, don't you want to have another market? Don't you want to see, like Oklahoma's been in there a few times, but don't you want to see an Oklahoma, or don't you want to see a USC, or we want to basically regionally, we want to get some more love across the country in the playoffs. Like, do you not want to see an Iowa make it in? Just because they can go and pound. How about Michigan State or Michigan? But like let's just say like you want to get another marquee school that's not regularly in there. Maybe 2 or 3 more now, and we could give some love to the at large, maybe 1 or 2 at large bids every year. But like you said, it gives at default would give you at least one at large in there for sure because of the AAC conference would have their conference winner be seeded into the playoff, and I think that should happen. And I know there's a lot of proponents of the super conferences. I'm not so much, just because I think when you have it set up with your regions, and you could, if you're at super conferences, you could even break it up into 4 regions if you want to, but it makes sense just to have 2 so you can have your conference title. Maybe the bowl games get turned into, like, you can move the bowl games into the conference championships, and you rotate them out. Like, you rotate them out amongst all the Power Sixes, or I don't, there's just so many bowl games. It wouldn't make sense, but I don't know, man. Like,
I think that, like I said, with the bowl games, if you're in the college football playoff, you're in. And for everybody else, that's ranked or top 25, whatever, I mean, you still get a chance to play in a bowl game, which, you can end your season on the right note, and, the RL Carriers Bowl still get their money, and the, Poinsettia Bowl in the Yankee Pinstripe Bowl, they can still get their dibs, to the other schools.
How you know?
So,
but we okay. So the way it stands now is that if you win 6 games, you get a bowl bid, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I would have to sit down with a pen and paper and really think about how this would be a good format for it, like for it to work, because that's going to be, at the end of it, the biggest complaint is these companies like to see their stuff out there. People want to see they're people that work for the company want to see the Twin Peaks Bowl, where it's Navy versus Oklahoma Bitech, junior college. Like, they don't care who's playing, man. They just want ESPN, that voiceover, to be like, you're watching the Hooters Bowl, like on ESPN. That's what they want, because they like that, they just want their name out there.
Right.
Maybe we do. I don't know, man. Like, maybe they talk about trimming the bowl bid, like the bowl bids down a little bit. There's something. There's some way to do this, because it does bring up the whole thing about the college kids. The football players that are going to be out of school for quite a while during the holiday, especially during finals times, but longer because of the added weeks onto it. But from a fan perspective, you get more playoff football, which what fan doesn't want to see more playoff football? And, it's something really to think about, man. It really, I'm curious about the logistics that they have in place for this idea. I'm going to do some reading after we wrap up here today to really see what the preliminary thoughts are on how to handle this. But, I mean, they've got to present something really solid. And, of course, at the end of the day, it's all about the money, right, Rod? It's all about the cash. How they present this is all about how much cash you're going to make us. That's really it,
Yep. It's basically, yep.
Yep. All right.
I mean, all of these companies, they're gonna want to get their cut, and let's not forget about ESPN. They want to get their dibs.
Oh yeah.
CBS is gonna want to get their dibs because they got New Year's 6 bowls and whatnot. ABC, of course, which owns ESPN, they want their cut, and so I mean, they can make it in a way to where everybody's happy.
Sure.
You brought up just a good point of switching the basic requirement of 6 wins, and maybe you up it, and so once again, it makes the regular season, it keeps the regular season relevant, to where, you can't, you lose early in the season, let's say that you're, a TCU and you wind up losing to Rice, that makes that particular loss. I mean, that loss can come back and bite you in the butt, right?
Yeah.
To where, the current format, you can lose to Rice early in the season, and man, you can easily rebound and, just, have a pretty decent season after that. So, I think it makes every single game count.
Wouldn't that kill the motivation to have home and homes with big teams out of conference? Wouldn't that kill that, though? Like, would Texas want to schedule a USC or a LSU home and away, like a home and home for 3 years, because they know, like, hey, we need to schedule some powder puffs because we're gonna get our in-conference schedule is set, like who we're facing is set, who we're facing outside. let's get us some cream puffs so we can make sure we get at least our 3 or 4 wins. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a possibility of that, but if we said that, hey, look, if you still bring in that BCS type formula to where strength of schedule, is a factor, then that solidifies still scheduling those home and home matchups, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, there's always a way to figure it out,
Okay.
to where you're not, to where you don't have like an Alabama to where, they are scheduling, Presbyterian, the week before the week before Auburn, hopefully you think that, hopefully you will see that kills that type of crap.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see, man.
All right. Let's jump on a few things here. We mentioned it earlier. Mike Krzyzewski, long-time head coach of Duke basketball. Also the men's USA team, who's won a lot of trophies in different areas. He announced that this upcoming basketball season will be his last. And there's a few things that tie into this, Rod, that's happened in the past couple weeks since we've been out. I think one of the bigger ones was over, and I'm going to mention it real quick and circle back to Mike Krzyzewski. But Brad Stevens, the head coach of the Boston Celtics, announced that he was stepping down as the head coach, but that Danny Ainge was leaving as the GM, and he was going to take over the GM role, which was shocking a lot of people. But I had heard a lot from a lot of people, both inside and outside of sports circles. Were talking about how they thought he was going to be eventually the guy to replace him at Duke, to replace Coach K. But yeah, man, just your thoughts, because I know you're a big Duke guy. Like I'm not a Duke hater. Like I'm not one of those folks. But I know you were a lot more into the Duke camp than I was.
Man, I have been a Dookie since 1991, man. Back when Hurley, Grant Hill, Christian Laettner, freaking Thomas Hill, was all balling, for Coach K, right? So I've been a long time Duke fan, and we, Duke fans knew at some point that Coach K was going to have to shut it down because,
Sure.
I mean, he's not getting any younger, right? And he
74?
doesn't have anything else to prove. I mean, he's got, what is it, 5 national championships, I think.
5.
And he's coached, he has coached the best players. Yeah, okay, so 5. So he has coached the best basketball players on the freaking planet, with Team USA. If you remember, he got his first sniff of coaching Olympians. I believe his first sniff was the Dream Team. So he got a chance to coach Jordan, Pippen, Magic Johnson, and all those guys. You know what I mean? And then you follow it up, some years later to where he's coaching Kobe, KD, LeBron, James Harden, and all of these guys. So you couple that with all these gold medals that you've gotten. You couple that with all of the championships. You have a court that's named after you, a section of campus that's named after you at Duke. What else is there for you to prove? You're one of the winningest, if not, I want to say, is he the winningest coach in college basketball history?
1,170. I know that's the number. I think he has the record. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And if he doesn't have the record, he's top 3.
Yeah.
What else is there to prove?
Yeah.
I mean, as far as a coach, you have basically lived a dream for 40 some odd years, 30 to 40 some odd years, right?
Sure.
And so what else is there for you to prove? And so I think at his age, I want to say I think he's in his upper 70s, and so yeah, man. I mean, freaking ride off into the sunset. I mean, he has earned the right to call his shot and go out on his own terms, right? He's earned that right.
Sure.
And so, as a Duke fan, I couldn't be more happy and just really, in a sense, honored to have watched greatness for all of these years. Whether you love Duke or whether you hate Duke, you have to respect Mike Krzyzewski. The dude is as far as college basketball, he's the GOAT, man. He is the GOAT, and so uh, I mean, of course, I'm gonna miss seeing him on the sidelines. Uh, I'm gonna miss seeing him getting fiery from time to time and whatnot. But yeah, it's time. It's time, and for him and to kind of keep it in that Duke tradition. They're keeping that head coaching job in the family.
Yeah.
They're keeping that head coaching job in the family to where, which kind of came as a shock, to where they have named John Shire as the successor to Coach K.
Yeah.
And the thing on Shire was that, of course, Shire was a former, basketball player for Coach K, won a national title with them in 2000, and I think it was the 2010 squad, if I'm not mistaken. To where I believe Nolan Smith was a point guard and Shire was either a 2 or a 3 guard out on that squad. And so, but yeah, so he's won a national title and, had a few drops of NBA experience. And then, after that dream was over, he went into coaching. Coach K, I mean, he called up Coach K, and Coach K gave him an opportunity, and he's been rocking with it ever since, right? So I think John's going to be good for the brotherhood. I think he's going to be good for what's going on campus because he's lived that whole moment, firsthand, and so would I want to be in his shoes because that is a huge. Those are huge shoes to fill,
Yeah.
But to get the opportunity, man, I mean, I know for John that's a dream come true. So yeah, I think that it's going to be a good transition, and we'll have to see what happens. I don't think that they'll be as dominant, as they used to be. I mean, they're still going to be relevant. I don't think they're going to be as dominant.
Yeah.
I think it'll take a couple of years until Shire really puts his imprint on the program, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Few things: 5-time national champion, 5-time Olympic gold medal coaching champion, 3-time coach of the year. He's actually this slipped my mind. He's a 2-time Naismith Basketball Hall of Famer. He got in for his individual career, but I forgot he was an assistant coach on the Dream Team with Chuck Daly.
Yes, sir.
I totally forget because, when you look at the Dream Team, Chuck Daly was the man, the guy that brought these egos together. But you forget that, and you hear stories that Coach K was really instrumental in helping Chuck, Coach Daly, wrangle these egos. And let's be real, and we're going to talk some hoop here in a little bit because, we're going to take a couple, a GOAT, quote unquote GOAT, to task here, I guess, in terms of NBA. But you talk about Magic, you talk about Bird, you talk about the biggest ego of all time, and Michael Jordan, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley. There's the ego, I don't know, man. If we could use take the Scoville level of measurement for peppers, this is way beyond. This is past Pepper X. And our friend Tom, Mr. Warburg, knows what I'm talking about because on his charity stream a few weeks ago, he ate a sauce that had the highest Scoville count ever with the chili X, the Pepper X in it. And yeah, I had to host that, and it was brutal watching him do it. By the way, I kind of was part of me was kind of thought it was entertaining, but I felt really bad also watching him struggle. But just that level, that record-setting level of just ego was there, and Coach Daly's a legend. We all know that, But if you read books, Coach K was instrumental in bringing those guys together because he had this natural ability to bring guys together, and that's why he's managed to make Duke so relevant for so freaking long. I mean, 12 Final Four appearances, 12. I mean, that's insane, Will there ever be another one like him, Rod? It's tough because coaches move around so much these days, and schools are ready to fire when they struggle. But he's had some down years. Like this year, they finished 13-11. This was not a very Coach K Duke type of season. But what's going to happen if next year they bounce back with some good recruits, and next thing you know, we find them in the Final Four or they win it all, and it's that would be the ultimate story, like a storybook ending for Coach K, right? Just to go out on top. But it's probably not going to happen, but it would be interesting to see if it happened that way. I just want to be able to see him go out like with a good fight, go into a dog fight in the tournament next year. But keeping it in house, it makes sense, man. Like, because he's so tenured at Duke, he's just been a staple that whole time. You want to keep it kind of within the family. You want to keep it grassroots within the family. It's someone that's going to be able to be there for a long time, and I don't know if that'll be the right move or not. Time will tell. But hey, Oklahoma, it was going to be hard to see their football program move on from Stoops, and Lincoln Riley just seems to have picked it up and kept the ball going, so to speak. So maybe that'll happen here with the Duke basketball program. But for me, I wish him the best in his quote-unquote retirement. I'm going to be real, though. I don't think he'll be completely done. I think you might see him on the next Dream Team, like, or maybe a couple more just to help, I don't think he's completely done. He might be an advisor. So I don't think this is completely the end. He's 74, which he should be enjoying the rest of his life. He's made a fortune coaching that program, but I don't think, if he's been coaching this long, I think it's going to be really hard for him to just completely just go cold turkey. Like, that's it. I'm done.
You bring up a good point. Maybe for Team USA, he's part of the executive board for Team USA.
That he's going to be involved in basketball in some shape or form, whether it's like an advisor in the NBA or for young players, or he's going to be an advisor to the NCAA for young players, or even with the men's basketball team. Like, I think he's not going to be completely done. Now, would he be done like coaching, not like 24/7 coaching and recruiting? Yeah, he's done with that. He's like,
he's done with that. Yeah,
I'm ready to move on. But yeah, I wish him the best, man. I wish him the best. It's going to be really hard to ever top what he did. I don't have the list in front of me, but I do know Bobby Knight Bobby Knight had the record for a while, and he had 900 wins. So it's somewhere. I have to go look at the list, but I think he may be tops in terms of all time wins.
Yeah,
I'll post something about that in Twitter or something. Here's a list, but. Next thing, man, I want to move on to is to do some NBA talk. I know they announced today while we're recording Jokic. I always get his name wrong. Nikolai Jokic. He won the MVP. Shocking to me. I mean, he had a great season, man, but I'm a little shocked because I thought they were going to go with kind of the status quo, like, they're going to give it to Durant or to LeBron, just kind of keep it status quo. But yeah, to see Jokic get it, I was like, yeah, that's awesome, man. It's good to see it because Denver and Phoenix are going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a damn good series, What are your thoughts about Jokic winning the MVP?
When you look at the finalists, because the finalists for MVP, you had Jokic, you had Joel Embiid, and you had Curry. And when you look at the body of work, Jokic had the best body of work. And so I think that with him winning this award, he becomes the first player to win it in a Nuggets uniform. Yeah. There hasn't been any person from that organization has ever won the MVP. I think somebody that came close may be my, I keep calling him my cousin, Alex English, and we may be related somehow, but anyways, I think that he might have come close a couple of times, but he is the first person to wear the Nuggets uniform to ever win the MVP, and the lowest drafted player to ever win MVP as well too. So he's making some history. But when you look at his body of work, he has been the most consistent out of all three of those guys. He's been the most consistent. So I think, to me, if you ask me, it's well earned, man. I think that he's earned it, and I really haven't seen anybody say that no, he hasn't deserved it or anything like that. I don't think anybody's complaining at all that he just won it. So, and I think, to be honest with you, him winning the MVP is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it is. Hell yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's a breath of fresh air because I'm sick and tired of seeing LeBron in there every year. Sick and tired of seeing Harden in there every year. Steph. As much as I like Steph, sometimes you get sick and tired of seeing him every year. It's good to see somebody like Jokic. Even Joel Embiid. We finally saw what Joel Embiid got drafted to do, and that is to be a superstar in this league. And he's finally reached that point to where, I mean, this is his first time being a finalist as MVP. So we're finally seeing, his, Joel starting to get into his prime, and we're finally starting to see that Embiid that we, well, that we thought that we would see at this point. And but yeah, man, I mean, hats off to Jokic, man. I mean, like I said, if you look at, his body of work throughout this whole season, he's probably was the most consistent out of all three.
Yeah, I agree. It's been good to see what's been taking place in the playoffs because you could tell there's a bit of a changing of the guard, in this next round in the conference semis. You have Utah and the Clippers. The one like I said, I can't wait is to just keep watching this. I think it's going to be a great series. Is the Denver Phoenix series? I think it's going to be great.
Oh man,
I know Phoenix is that team, man, where if the shots are going in, like they are scary because Devin Booker, it can just light you up from just everywhere on the court, man. Philly and Atlanta. Trae Young's coming into his own. I like to see that. I like to see that. The Milwaukee-Brooklyn series, that's just kind of like, okay, those were the two that we figure we're going to be there no matter what. So Brooklyn's looking really strong right now. Durant's getting so hot right now, and this is without James Harden. I really think with Jokic winning it, like you said, a breath of fresh air, I think we're going to start quietly seeing a changing of the guard. Steph, his team, kind of just bottomed out, and it leads to a lot of questions of what they're going to do going forward, especially with Klay Thompson maybe coming back next year, or should he come back, or what.
And what they're going to do with Draymond.
What they're going to do with Draymond just because they're paying him so much money. But the big thing is the elephant in the room is LeBron and the Lakers. Like remember, man, everyone gave them the title this year. Because at the beginning of the year, everyone said it's the Lakers and everyone else, this isn't going to happen. And then, Utah ended up becoming the number 1 seed, which is great because I like Mitchell. I know like he got a lot of crap early in the year from Shaq, but I like the guy. I do not. We've talked about this on the show many times over the years. I don't like the Utah Jazz franchise in terms of like just their fans. I'm not a fan of the people of Salt Lake City. The land of racist is what I call it. Not a big fan of that area. I love the scenery, the landscape. I like the players that they've had over the years, except for Karl Malone, who's a piece of crap human being. I like Mitchell, man. I'm gonna be real. I like Mitchell. I think I like his game.
Nice, man.
I like his game, and I know he and Shaq had a little bit of a tiff about his game, and Shaq's entitled to his opinion. I mean, I respect some of his opinion at times when he talks about, like, to hear these guys try to talk about how LeBron is the greatest of all time. There's no argument, and Shaq is like, man, like, you don't even know. Like, I played at the beginning of the LeBron era, but I was also there with the greatest big man era, like overall, not the Wilt and Russell era. We're talking about the Elijah one, the Shaq, the Robinson, like there were just so, like the Rick Smiths. There was just the dominating centers at that time, and he was like, I was in that mix, and I will tell you, like, there were so many damn players I played with that were great. Like, at the back end of he played up, he went head to head with Jordan in the playoffs, in the return. And so, like, and I'll be honest with you, I think that Bulls team is what deconstructed that what could have been a title contending Magic team, because once they got Horace Grant, they were in the finals the next year, and then the very next year they got knocked out of the playoffs, and then I think that they came up against a pissed off Jordan juggernaut of a team, like that. Jordan had Jordan's always had a chip on his shoulder, which makes him a bit of an asshole, but in terms of like greatness and playing, to me that's just, there's bar none, there's no one else. It's Jordan and everyone else. And Kobe had kind of that same pissed off fire, which I like. But like hearing Shaq go to defend, like, guys, you guys didn't even play in that era. Like, you don't even know like how great those guys were. It's interesting to see him be critical of Donovan Mitchell, and why? Because he really hasn't done much yet. He's still very young. His career is young in the NBA. Right now, they're the 1 seed. If they go out there and they beat the Clippers this round, and they're in the conference finals, like, he's gonna have to he's gonna have to eat some crow there. He's gonna have to eat crow, man. I like what I'm seeing from this change of the guard. It's just
Yeah.
when you look at the playoff board to see the Hawks in there, the Nuggets, the Suns, the Jazz, and we're talking about some of these teams could potentially knock out some of the Brooklyn or Milwaukee or the Clippers that were supposed to be the staples, the elite of the NBA, and it's like these other teams could be like, nope, not yet, guys, or just it's not your time, it's our time. I really like what I'm seeing. You know me, I like disruption, man. I like disruption.
Mm-hmm.
Hack the planet. I like disruption. Hack the planet.
Oh man,
but it's
one
good.
of my favorite movies of all time, man.
Yeah, but it was funny to see LeBron pout his way out of the playoffs. And maybe I'm going to be a little critical and I'm going to get some crap for this, but I've always stated, like, I don't have a problem talking about LeBron being one of the all-time great players in the NBA. He's deserving of that. I've always had a problem with the fact that an 18-year-old boy, before he even picked up an NBA basketball, was dubbed the King. Like, that was his moniker, King James.
Yeah.
He was the next Jordan. He would be greater than Jordan. All these things, and it's just so much for him. And I don't want to. I hate doing this, man. I really hate comparing him. But what I saw this season from him, and just of his attitude, what I saw in the playoffs, just him not leading his team. In games in the second to the last game, which was they played 6 games, so game 5. How he walked off the court, when they were in a blowout with 5 minutes left. To me, that's just a bunch of crap from the guy. Like, that's just disrespectful. Yep. And just to see him pout at the end of it, I liken it to what I saw from Cam Newton, a guy that had no problem being the life of the party when you're winning. Like, he's the one everyone wants to be around. He's whining and dining, got the champagne, the sunglasses, the weird-ass clothes. The cigars. Everyone likes him. He's the best person because he's so happy when he's winning. But when he loses, he's a petulant child. He's not pissed and motivated to win. He's just pissed and pouting. And that was LeBron this week. That was LeBron last week. And does he deserve the criticism that people are throwing his way because of that? I do. I think so. What are your thoughts about this whole thing? Like, just, the Lakers that were handed the title at the beginning of the year, shown the door because they were a 7 seed of all things. Injuries suck, but injuries are a part of sports, guys. That's the reality of it. But just to see him, just to see a very, like, an immature side from a 35-year-old, 36-year-old guy, that, who's been in the NBA for a long ass time. And I know he wants that respect to be called the greatest player ever. But to me, he doesn't have that, he doesn't have that extra fire to be like, I am, and I'm going to prove it. It's just, like, what I do should be enough is what I feel. It's like, what I'm doing should be enough for everyone to say I'm the greatest. But to me, it's like, nope. Because all the greats, they don't ever say what I'm doing is enough. They always say, I want to do more, and I'm going to do more. And I haven't seen that from LeBron the last few years. I didn't see it this year, for sure.
Right. I'm gonna go on a limb, and I'm gonna say this: that the Lakers got lucky last year. They took advantage. They took advantage of being in the bubble. Folks was healthy. LeBron, this is the first year to where he's really dealt with some serious injuries. And so that was very new to him. But that's not to make excuses because all the greats deal with injuries.
Sure.
And so, yes. I think that I haven't seen LeBron just really take over a game, like a normal superstar does. I haven't seen him do that in years.
Well, he does it in the regular season from time to time. There are times where he does it. I haven't seen it, like, it's not a regular thing in the playoffs for LeBron to just become this monster, like just this absolute monster. He's good and he has good stretches, but like I never just see him like just break the back of the opponent in the playoffs. I've never seen that. I've never seen it.
Me either. I mean, I haven't seen him just be like, give me the ball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just, hey, look, y'all are going to ride my shoulders, right? I haven't seen that. I mean, it's been some years, man.
Yeah.
I don't think that we have seen that since his Cleveland days. The last stint with Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
And so I think age has something to do with it. Because he's always getting the comparison to MJ,
Yeah.
and how the biggest thing that everybody talks about MJ was, of course, him being the alpha male on the court, but how he made all of his teammates better. And so you see that one side in some aspects to where LeBron is trying hard to make his teammates better.
Sure.
Case in point was him yelling at KCP during that first round series about him shooting the ball.
Sure.
And so I think that he's probably doing that a little bit too much, to appease that part of the argument.
Sure.
But where part of his game, where it's almost like he sacrificed part of his game to do that.
Okay.
In which, the one thing that made MJ was everybody knew who was getting the ball.
Yeah.
There was no question on who was getting the ball. With LeBron, you don't know what you're getting. I want to say these last 3 years, you don't know what you're getting. You don't know in those clutch moments if he's going to dish it to somebody or if he's going to take the last shot or anything of that nature. And like I said, it's very rare that we see him just take over a game and just be a bulldog. Kobe did it on a normal basis. MJ did it on a normal basis. I mean, freaking Dame Lillard is doing that on a normal basis, in which we got to talk about him.
Sure.
But anyways, but yeah, with LeBron, I'm just not seeing that dog. I think that ship has sailed, Pat. I think that now of course I could be wrong. I mean, this could possibly be a blessing in disguise to where he has a full off season to recover. Because if you look over the last, almost 10 years, he's gone deep into the playoffs every single year.
Now, we have to put this in there. He has gone deep. He's played a lot of basketball in his career since he was 18 because he's essentially lived, 2 full seasons in the playoffs because of every year being in there. He's been in the finals so many times. Okay. I'm not dismissing his greatness. I want to reiterate that again. Like, the guy is one of the greatest players of all time. Now, where you want to put him, that's where I have the debate. Okay, if you want to say he's top 10, you're damn right he's top 10. If you want to say top 5, my question to you is, okay, who's getting pushed out of that top 5? That's something to really think about for me. Like, Bird's up there, Magic's got to be up there, obviously Jordan. Kobe's got to be up there, and LeBron. Okay, I can work with that. Like, I'm okay with that. But you're like, who are you pushing out? Like, are you pushing out Tim Duncan? I mean, we got to talk.
Are you pushing out Dr. J?
Are you pushing out Doc? Are you pushing out Wilt? You're pushing out, there's Kareem, Bill Russell, Kareem. There's just some. It's that's the tough thing, but it's just that people want to keep debating about this. But for me, I don't like to say MJ is better than LeBron because they were 2 different players. Okay, they played 2 different games. Now, if you talk about their legacy in the sport, and you want to say LeBron was the greatest basketball player of all time in the NBA, I'm going to say no. I have to say no. Why? Because of what we're talking about, these things where I've never seen him just become this beast in the playoffs. Never seen him become a beast. The difference, Magic never scored, 40 points a game in the playoffs. You're right. But the one thing Magic did was he controlled the ball. He controlled his team. He controlled the pace of the game. Like, that was a thing. And, basically, it may not have been buckets, because that's what I'm talking about. People want to say, well, LeBron's greatness is not just about how many points per game he averaged. Okay, fine. That's the same thing about Magic. Well, if I compare Magic with LeBron, I see a true leader when I look at Magic. I see a true leader who had a competitive streak in him, who is a really big shit talker. Let's be real. All these greats, Larry, Magic, MJ, Kobe, they were massive shit talkers.
Man.
I don't know about, I just when I, of all the LeBron basketball games I've seen, because he's been in the league for so long and I've seen him in the playoffs so much, I don't see the guy I don't see that in him. Okay, well, it's a different era of the NBA. I get that too. I also get that. But what I also see with LeBron when I'm watching him run up and down the court is I see a guy that complains so damn much. The referees, it's like at some point it's just like for me, it's like if you're having to complain, you don't. I mean, you're just losing your focus if that's all you're doing. And the guy flops. I'm gonna be real with you. The guy flops. A guy his size should be able to just run through everybody because Shaq did it. Shaq just basically, his fat ass ran through everybody because he was so massive. LeBron, for his position, is one of the bigger guys, he's just so big. He should be able to run through people. And when I start stacking these little things up, that's where it signals to me. It's like, he's a great player, but I just think that there's just so much missing from all these little things that make him the greatest. And
man, quick question.
Sure.
When's the last time you ever seen LeBron get into a rumble? Never. I've never seen LeBron get into one fight over his whole career.
No, man, because he always had his boys. He always had someone to do it. He had J.R. Smith in Cleveland for a stretch. You know, D Wade's ready to go down. He's ready to throw down in Miami, right?
And plus on top of it, when he was in Miami, you had Udonis Haslem, who was really the real enforcer on the team.
Udonis was straight up ghetto. Yeah, he was hood, man. He was hood. Who was the first? Who was the enforcer for his first tenure in Cleveland? Wasn't Anderson?
Was it Varejao?
Was it Varejao? Really? Okay. I wasn't going to say that.
Varejao? No. Delonte West, man.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
You know how I know? Because unfortunately saw that guy go homeless recently and apparently got his life together, which is great. Thank you, Mark Cuban, for helping save the guy. But I mean, just hearing about how hood he was, I was like, okay, so he's got his own enforcers wherever he's gone, so he didn't have to worry about that, And
but you look at Jordan. I mean, even though he didn't get into a lot of fights, he did scrap a couple of times.
Oh no,
I remember the one time he fought with Reggie Miller. Man, I mean, that was a pretty nice one.
It's Kobe. Reggie Miller, dude. What's Reggie Miller gonna do? He weighs like $160 on a soaking
I get it.
day.
I mean, I get it, but they went to blows.
Yeah.
I mean,
I give Reggie props because
the fact that
I give Reggie props, man, because he talked his trash, but he took it like a man. And when Jordan, when they got into scuffles, like they were still cool after the game, but God, it's just. Man, the NBA was just such a different time, man. Just such a different time.
Right. I mean, Kobe. You saw Kobe, getting at least one fight, and based on the video, looked like he lost that fight. But at least he did get up in Chris Child's grill and try to go with him. I mean,
I forgot about that. I forgot about Chris Child.
Not the best of him, but Kobe was willing to throw.
Yeah. Yeah, when I think of fights, I don't think of LeBron James. I don't
that's my point. Yeah. That's my point. Is leaders, they're willing to do whatever it is for their team to earn the respect of that locker room.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so I don't see the exact same thing from LeBron. Yeah. And it goes back to what you just said. We are not disputing his greatness, okay? Because he is one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah.
Nobody is saying that, LeBron's a scrub. Nobody's saying that LeBron is mediocre. LeBron is great. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Of course.
Hands freaking down. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, he's getting in on first shot. Yeah. That goes without saying. I mean, you could go ahead and just give him his jacket right now and the man's still playing. Yes, but to put him at the table, with Magic, and MJ and Kobe and Tim Duncan and all those guys, if you're saying top 10, yeah, hands down, hands freaking down, he's in there, he's at the table. Top 5, that's where it's questionable, that's where it's debatable. The top dog, no, not at all. Now, and I've had this discussion with a couple of folks here locally. If you ask me, the comparison from him to Jordan is really not a good comparison. I mean, you alluded to that just a few moments ago. Who he should be really, really compared to, and it's a good discussion, is Magic Johnson.
Yes.
Because LeBron, he is the closest thing in this era to Magic Johnson that I've ever seen. Because when you look at him, he can play point. When you talk about his basketball IQ is extremely high.
Yep.
He has excellent court vision. He can play defense when he needs to. Magic wasn't known as as an extremely great defender, but you're not going to just take him to school either. You're not going to do it to LeBron either, right? And so I think the closest comparison to LeBron as far as the greats is Magic Johnson.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So yeah, man. Him, leaving. This is his first time, losing in the first round of the playoffs. I think that this is a sign of things to come because he's not getting any younger.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think, playing on the other end of it, that this could be a blessing in disguise to where he gets a full off season to rest and recover.
Okay.
And so we may see a completely different LeBron next year because he's never experienced this before.
Sure.
Now, next year, if he comes into the season and he goes on an absolute tear and he starts killing everybody and he's named the MVP,
well,
then we can start to.
I don't agree with that because I think if he comes back rested, ready to go, fired up for all the criticism, like from people like us that are not calling him the GOAT, like because it's a proven thing that LeBron does care about his legacy as one of the all-time, if not the all-time great. It does mean something to him because he's hinted at that to people in the past. It's important to him. I think that though he would come in and be a little conservative in terms of like his play because he is older. He's closer to 40. I could see he's closer to 40 than 30, and I could see him being a little conservative, like in terms of how he. But as the season goes on, he looks towards getting ready for the playoffs. It's going to be a very interesting offseason for the Lakers because let's bring it up. Damian Lillard, from the Trailblazers, they lost in the first round. They're out. Now there's word leaking out that he wants out of Portland if they're not going to build a true contender for him. He's tired of the same old. And let's be real, like you mentioned, if there's a guy that puts a team on his back and just pushes and pushes and pushes, Dame is one of those guys. And I'm not going to say he's overlooked or underrated because we all know that, but he's so clutch he's a clutch shooter, man. Like you talk about Reggie Miller, you bring up Reggie Miller, one of the most clutch shooters in the playoffs, right? In NBA history. Dame is like carving himself a niche out up there, just like in a rung kind of below where Steph is right now, is Dame, because you and I have witnessed it firsthand during Rockets playoffs games with the Trailblazers. He's knocked them out. He's knocked them out of the playoffs with clutch shots. He's done that. There have been games where he almost brought the Blazers back. In that first round, all on his own. It looks like he wants a change if they're not going to build around him and build him a contender. And there's rumors that the Lakers really want him or LeBron really wants him. And we come back to that whole thing. Here we go again. Got to get LeBron his big three so he can go ahead and win. I'm not going to say much about that because, that it's not uncommon for these guys to build other stars at different points in their careers around them to push for a title. And Lillard definitely wants a title. It's really, you could tell it's important to him. He's had a great career to this point. Yeah, man, like they don't have assets to give up. They don't have the money to do anything. It would be very interesting to see how they would make that happen. They don't have anything to give up unless they're willing to give up, Caldwell Pope or Kuzma. And that's just the tip of the iceberg because we're talking about Dame Lillard who scores 50 points in the playoffs like it's nothing, in his sleep.
Yep.
So, realistically, most teams in a situation like that would be like, okay, you're giving us AD if we're going to give you Lillard, but that won't happen, obviously, because the Lakers are like, well, then what's the point of the deal? But they don't have the assets. The other thing is out there, like, it was announced today that from a reporter in the basketball world that the Knicks have expressed that they do have some interest in trading for John Wall. That's another player that the Lakers could look at. I mean, his price tag is expensive at $45 million next year. They don't have a lot of assets, and they're not under the cap, so they really can't do a deal for just like they can't just give up a scrub and a draft pick for John Wall because they don't have the space. They would have to give up a lot of salary to match out. But that's another one that's another name out there. But you brought it up. You wanted to talk about Dame here, but I wanted to bring up before I throw it over to you, man. Just they people are saying that they're eyeing Dame for the Lakers. I don't think it's possible at this point with the way the contracts are structured and their younger guy, the quote unquote younger guys, they're being paid a lot of money right now, and with AD and LeBron in there, I don't think that's possible. They don't have assets to ship off. I don't think they do.
No, they don't. They don't, man. I mean, they are strapped with a bunch of bad contracts on that squad as well too. And so when you look at the Lakers, yeah, for starters, KCP and Kuzma will have to be in, the in the deal. I don't think that they have enough assets in the realm of draft picks. I don't think that they have enough. They just don't have enough, man. And so what I told you earlier off air is I would say you could possibly maybe look at the Knicks, maybe somehow getting into the mix of things.
Okay.
You look at what they're doing. You look at what Thibodeau is doing, in which Tom Thibodeau was named Coach of the Year, and rightfully so. I've always been a Tibbs guy, since he was with the Rockets, and I'm just so elated that he got Coach of the Year. And the NBA is absolutely a great product when the Knicks are relevant.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that much of a Knicks fan, but I want to see them succeed, right? And I feel sorry for those Knicks fans that had to deal with all the BS over years with James Dolan. Dolan finally makes a good decision, and I want to say that Dolan signed off on it, but I know it was somebody else's call. It's finally Dolan lined up and finally used some common sense for a change, and so I think that the Knicks, I think that they could easily get into the mix of going into the Dame Lillard sweepstakes. I think that when you look at their salary, they're only as far as team salary. I'm looking at the stats right now. Their team salary, they're only at $102 million, which is the second to lowest payroll in all the NBA.
Yeah.
So they've got the cash.
Well, and I think 20 million of that is dead cap space because of contracts. I don't know if that's coming off the books at the end of the season, or if what's going to roll into next season for dead cap. I'd have to go look, but the Knicks are going to be in buying mode, just like the Mavs. And I mentioned this to you. Rod and I were talking about this sidebarring earlier this week about, for me, I think because Mark Cuban has stated that they're going to be buyers this offseason because they want to push to for a contender, and I'm going to call it now. Luka is going to be the MVP next year. If the Lakers, if the Mavs can be a top 3 seed in the West, Luka will be the MVP. Just like Jokic was this year because of the seed. I think that there was more exposure for the Nuggets this year because of the record. And I think, the Mavs surprised me because they struggled early in the year, but then they bounced back and slowly pushed their way back into the playoffs. I think it's going to be interesting to see this, but I mentioned maybe Dame moving over to the Trailblazers, and Portland can get Porzingis in that deal.
You mean the Mavericks?
I'm sorry, the Mavs. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the deal between a deal between the Mavs and the Trailblazers, where the Mavs get Dame and they send off Porzingis. And I like Porzingis, but I think he scores a lot of points in Dallas. I think they need somebody different to help be the number 2 behind Luka. And I think a Dame, a Lillard, / Luka dynamic could be really awesome, because when one of them is not on the court, the other one can take the lead, run the point. So Yeah, man. Like it's gonna be weird, but the Knicks are a buying team. They have the space, which means they can make transactions there. They have their MLE. They're under the cap. I don't know how much of the dead cap space is going to be eaten up, but they have some young talent that they can send off as well as some picks too. So, the Knicks are obviously going to be buyers, and people are saying it's got to be Dame. It's got to go to New York. That just makes sense. I don't know, man. Like, I just don't know. Like, there's just I know the Knicks are better this year, but the Knicks have a history of doing some just really bad contracts, and I could see them doing something dumb like trading for John Wall and giving up something just to. And as a Rockets fan, I like the idea of John Wall being sent to New York because that takes that $47 million off the books for the Rockets as they're rebuilding. They're obviously going to have they should have a top 4 pick, and I really am either all aboard, and we could talk about this maybe another time, but I'm all aboard with Jalen Suggs, but Cunningham is also overall the top prospect. So you get either of those guys will lead the point. You know, you have Kevin Porter Jr. who had a decent season when he came up from the G League. And Christian Wood, who you have a decent core to build around, you know, with the Rockets, and then you have a lot of draft picks. You make a couple of really good quality draft picks that create depth, and all of a sudden, 1 or 2 signings, you know, to build up that roster, and you're back in the playoffs if you're Houston. But sending Wall's contract away to the New York, I would love that idea, but. People were saying, yeah, the Knicks aren't that dumb, but I'm like, yeah, they've done some really dumb stuff. They've done some, yeah. So it's all about Dame at this point, man. Like where he lands sets the table for what the Knicks, the Mavs, and some of these other teams that want to change things up are going to do. That's really it, man. That's really it. But you think he should go to New York? You think that's the perfect?
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah. When you look at the nucleus. And like I said, I'm looking at as far as their payroll, they got $50 million coming off the books right after this season.
Yeah.
$50 million, dude. That is a whole
did Rose
lot
sign
of house money to play with.
Did Rose sign a 2-year or 1-year deal for $7 million? Okay, so he's off the books.
His contract comes off the books this year.
Okay.
Now they will probably look to re-sign him because him and Tibbs just have that relationship. So Tibbs is going to push for him to get re-signed.
But they're not going to pay him a lot of money, though. They're not going to pay him.
No. They'll probably, maybe 1 or 2 year contract, for maybe 20 mil. So they maybe his salary, he's getting paid, 7.6 mil or 7.7 mil this year.
Yeah.
I could maybe see it going up to 9 or 10.
Okay.
But it's not going to be a long-term deal.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, obviously.
But you got a lot of contracts coming off the books, right? And so they keep their nucleus in Obi Toppin and R.J. Barrett and then Julius Randle. They can take Emmanuel Quickly, who was like an unsung guy. He came out of nowhere this year, and you throw him in a trade because he's got tremendous potential, tremendous upside. You include him in the package, some first round picks, and maybe do a sign and trade, maybe, I don't know, Nerlens Noel or something like that, because their big man, Portland's big man,
Sabonis Jr.?
Was it Yosef?
Yosef.
Yeah. He's been battling injuries over the last couple of years, so you don't know about his durability. And Nerlens Noel, he basically resurrected his career over the last 2 years, and so he's good commodity. Now, of course, all the money has to add up, and so the Knicks may, from a numbers to numbers standpoint, they may not be a good fit, but maybe I don't know, maybe you pull off a sign and trade or whatever.
Well, with the Knicks being under the salary cap, they don't have to match the percentage contracts because they're not over the cap.
Oh, well, crap.
Yeah, and someone listening, if I'm wrong, point it out. But I always thought that if a team in the deal is under the base salary cap, the first level salary cap, they don't have to match salaries for a player for the players. So that's where, like with John Wall going to New York, if they offered Kevin Knox over back to Houston and draft picks. because they're under the cap, he's only like a $5 or $6 million player, so they don't have to match that 40 million or a percentage of that 47 million, 45 million that Wall's due next year. They don't have to match that contract with players. They just, because New York is under the cap, they can just straight up trade and take on that contract. Now then it's going to push them over the cap, obviously, but I don't think they go after Wall unless until they won't consider it until Dame is off the books. When Dame is traded and that's done, whatever happens to him, and if it's not to New York, then New York may give Houston a call for John Wall. But okay, so you think Dame's got to be in New York? Okay, I'm not going to argue with that. Like you said, the NBA is better when the Knicks are relevant. I just think this season the Knicks were better, but I think the New York fans thought the Knicks had, like, basically I think I think their profile is they're still under the radar because you just don't see that superstar in New York, which is kind of a marquee thing for a marquee city, you know?
Well, but you look at Julius Randle, who won NBA's most improved player.
Oh, most improved player, yes. Yeah, and he deserved it. He deserved it.
Yeah, exactly. And so you put him with the right coach, and like I say, you got to give Tibbs his props.
Yeah, I am.
You know what I mean? I basically Julius Randle owes that award to Tom Thibodeau.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, Thibodeau brought out what we expected to see when Julius Randle got drafted by the Lakers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's amazing how you see these players that were high draft picks back in the day, when they get with the right coach, all of a sudden, bam! I mean, Joel Embiid. It took Doc Rivers to pull some of that stuff out of him as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, with Thibodeau running, what's going on the court, man. I see the Knicks, and even him having influence in some of the decisions. Yeah, the Knicks over the years have done extremely idiotic moves, but I think that Thibodeau, with his influence, because he, talked to the management about pulling Derrick Rose into the fold.
Sure.
And you saw what happened there.
Yeah.
He provided veteran leadership. He provided some solid scoring when they needed it. I mean, of course, he wasn't scoring 20 a game, but he gave them buckets when they needed it.
When they needed buckets,
so,
yeah. Which is what you want out of a veteran that you're bringing in on your bench, is to lead, and then when that young team is struggling, to provide offensive support, because we know that he had he was a great player in his younger years before injuries piled up, scoring wise. Won an MVP at 23, 24 years old.
Yeah, 23, I believe.
One of the youngest MVPs ever, if I'm not mistaken, if not the youngest ever. But I could see it, but the X factor for me here is James Dolan is still the owner. That's the thing. I'm not a James Dolan fan. I think that he has hurt the franchise the last 10 years more than he's actually helped.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's made it hard for coaches and GMs to come in and rebuild things and get them back on track. But I do agree with you. Tom Thibodeau is a different cat. He's a cat of a different color. Like, this guy motivates. This guy gets a lot out of these guys, because remember his tenure in Chicago. I mean, he did a lot for them. He got a lot out of Taj Gibson and Luol Deng. Like, these were guys I remember thinking, like, who are these guys? Like, who are they? But all of a sudden, you heard their names every night, on highlights. Here's Deng, here's Gibson, here's Deng, here's Gibson, and of course they had Derrick Rose.
I mean, look, Kirk Heinrich was balling back then.
Oh God, yeah, Kirk Heinrich made a lot of money off of his tenure in Chicago. Same thing with Redick, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Redick's contract this year was like something ridiculous, right? Like $20 million or something.
Something like that, yeah.
I think.
Yeah. No, Redick didn't play for Thibodeau.
No,
Redick
it wasn't Redick.
Thibodeau.
Was it Redick? Okay, I was thinking of. I think Redick, but Redick was in Chicago, wasn't he?
Oh, no. No, Heinrich was.
I know. Kirk Heinrich was, and he made a lot of money over there. Good for him. Not begrudging anybody making their money while they can. But you're right, though. He brings out a lot from the guys. Like these, he pulls a lot in terms of talent. So. Yeah, man. If Dame goes to New York with Julius Randle and Barrett, that would be a good mix there. That would be a good mix. I still think they're one key veteran away, though. One key veteran away.
The beautiful thing about it is they got the money to pay for one.
Well, if everyone's saying New York, it's going to be interesting to see if they can pull the trigger, like if they can get the deal done. And I think it's also Portland maybe asking for a king's ransom here. They're gonna do that.
Yeah,
But the Harden trade has these other big trades that happened this season. They kind of set the table of what you can get.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Anything else before we wrap this bad boy up, Rod? You want to talk about?
No, man, man, we've gone for about an hour and a half, man. I mean,
Yeah.
man, I think we pretty much covered the gambit as far as this episode, dude.
All right, man. I'm gonna give my parting shot here, guys. It's always a pleasure to do these things. I know when I took my quote unquote sabbatical, or I quasi retired from doing like these type of productions, it always would get frustrating whenever I had a story to tell. I would text or message Rod and say, "Man, these are the stories, times like these, that I really wished I had a platform to say something." So it's always fun to be able to do this with your, Rod. Like, just, it may not be a regular scheduled thing. Maybe one day we decide, like, we're gonna do this every week again, or what. I don't know what's gonna happen, but right now I'm enjoying it whenever we are able to sit down and record. And the few of you that do download and listen to us on Spotify, I'm very thankful and very happy that you have. Family and friends are always, and our childhood friends are all supportive of this, and so I appreciate that, guys. Thank you very much. Yeah, I do. For those of you that are out there that want to, get involved in the mix and stuff, you're always welcome to reach out to us. We have no problem, and we actually love rapping sports with everybody. It's something that we always love to do. Um, yeah, that's it. That's my parting shot. Just want to tell you guys thank you. Really appreciate it.
And let me add on top of that, man. I mean, we appreciate, all of, the kind gestures and folks that agree with us. But we ain't no punks either, man.
No, we're not.
We'll mix it up with the best as well too, man. So don't get it twisted, man. Hey, we could bring some noise when we need to.
Oh yeah.
So, for those of you that are of the challenging type, we always welcome a challenge. It's all good. You know what I mean? So yeah, just FYI.
Yes, you've been warned. Rod, I'm gonna
Yes,
pass
you
the
have been
baton to
warned.
you, man. Wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah. So for those of you that know me personally and follow me on social media, these last 2 weeks have probably been some of the toughest weeks that I've ever had to deal with in my you know in my whole life. Unfortunately, 2 weeks ago, my wife's mother, my mother-in-law, passed away after, dealing with some health complications that she's been dealing with for quite some time. And so, the funeral was last weekend, and it was extremely tough, extremely tough. And so, I messaged Pat today, and Pat was pretty much ready to go, but I really want to get down and and record an episode because it's almost like therapy. You know what I mean? And to be honest with you, I am wearing Texans gear. I'm wearing my Deshaun Watson jersey. I'm wearing this Texans hat. Even though I said I was completely done with the Texans, and I still am, I'm not rocking with the Texans until the McNair sell the team. I'm still on that. That's not going to change until that happens. But my mother-in-law, Sandra Thomas, she was probably the biggest Houston sports fan that I've ever known in my entire life. I'm talking about diehard. She may not have known, you know, or given a crap about statistics or anything like that. She just followed her teams, man. I mean, she repped H Town to the fullest, and every time that she watched a game, she had her gear on. Whether it's Astros, Rockets, Texans. It wouldn't have surprised me if she watched the Houston Dynamo, the MLS club, right? And so she supported her city teams, and I posted this on one of my Facebook posts, right after the services on Saturday, that I'm going to miss those calls, that I get from her. My wife, it reminded me of a couple of times where my mother-in-law would call her, asking for me, and the conversation would go like this. Well, hey, where's your husband at? And my wife would respond, um, he's around the house somewhere. Well, is he watching the game? And my wife was like, I don't know. And she was like, oh hell, you don't know nothing. Yeah, you know nothing. Put him on the phone, right? And so I get on the phone, and we would talk maybe like for 15 minutes or so, but we would rap sports. When we were still living in Houston, and we only lived maybe like 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes away from each other. She had a room to where when I came over there, that room was for me and for me only, and she made sure that not, that none of my sister-in-laws nor my wife bothered me when I was in that room. I mean, that woman loved me like if I was her own blood, right? And so, I'm gonna miss taking her to the baseball games. I'm gonna miss, getting those phone calls. But she's gonna be missed so dearly. But I know that she's not suffering anymore, and I know that she's in a better place. So I'm wearing all this gear, and I'm definitely dedicating this episode, in her memory, because yeah, her and her family, they've loved me, and they've accepted me and taken me in since day one. Before me and my wife got married, they've accepted me as one of their own, and yeah, she's gonna be missed. One of the toughest women I've ever known in my entire life. One of the biggest trash talkers I've ever heard in my entire life, and she's gonna be missed. And so yeah, so I'm wearing this, wearing my Texans gear in her honor. So yeah, so mother-in-law Sandra Thomas, big girl as they called her. I know that you're up above listening, and this is for you.
All right. Love and respect to Rod and his family in this time. Sandra, this one is for you. This episode is dedicated to you. So hopefully you can hear it up there. Hopefully you have a Spotify subscription and you're listening right now. But
Right.
but yeah, much love and respect. Thank you very much, guys. As always, it's a pleasure. If you want to catch us, just look for / or at Cap Casualties, and you can just find us on all social media. Passing the love on and passing the word out there is always thankful from us. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, Rod, as always, guys. We're gonna catch you guys on the flip.
Peace.